Retiring as a single person can be a big challenge, and it certainly doesn't help that most information on the internet is geared towards couples. In this video, we'll cover 17 challenges that singles face entering retirement. And at the end of this video, we'll go through our financial planning software to help you walk through many of these challenges to help you navigate retirement and have a successful retirement. Data shows that about a third of households over the age of 50 are single in North America. That's striking. That means that a lot of you are retiring single, and we hear it again and again. So the first tip I have for you is the decumulation around your RRSP. Now, when you convert your RRSP to RIF, you need to draw it down or melt it down. Now, when you're married or common law, you have two of those. You can kind of like work one, then work the other, and make them work together. There's a bit more integration there. As a single person hitting retirement, you need to make sure you're still having a clear RRSP meltdown strategy. The whole goal behind that is to level out your tax bill. So challenge number one for you is to make sure that you're still melting down that RSP, leveling out the average tax rate in retirement. This strategy still applies for you. Nothing changes here. The second challenge as a single retiree is you only have one set of government benefits. So you only have one CPP and one old age security, and hopefully you have both of those. And so you want to make sure you understand how they work. So do your due diligence, do your homework on how does a CPP work? How much will I get? When can I start it? And most importantly, when does it make the most sense to start for you? Strategizing around an RSP meltdown and delaying that CPP typically will still put the most money back in your pocket again and again. Old age security, you can start at 65, delay it all the way till 70 if you want. Again, going to depend on how many other assets you have, how much cash flow. But the strategy of an RSP meltdown, delaying your CPP, and then working that OAS to figure out what's best for you still applies. So it's a challenge in that you only have one of those groups of assets for you, but the strategy and tax strategy there will still apply as a single person. So make sure you put a proper plan together that implements these strategies. The third challenge you will face as a single retiree is you're going to pay more tax as an individual. When we build a retirement plan as a couple or a common law partner, typically that average tax rate per person will fall in the 8 to 12% range. That's the most common that we see. As a single person, you're probably going to be 14 up to 20%. If you have a higher tax rate or a higher income, you're going to have a higher tax rate. There's no income splitting. You can't kind of share some of that. Again, if you've built up a great nest egg and you had a spouse or partner that had very little, you could split that and really lower down your taxes and still have the same household income. So it's a big disadvantage there. And unfortunately, all it takes is tax planning. Sit with your financial planner and work out the best plan. It's going to be hard to get your tax rate down to 10 or 12% unless you have a lower income, but it's possible to get it from say 18 down to 14 average tax rate with proper tax planning. The fourth challenge you will face is CPP timing and the rigidity around it. I talked about CPP slightly already, but when you talk about timing CPP, a lot of you think about, if you have a common law partner or spouse, it's, well, if I die early, they've already maxed out, so we're going to take it earlier. And there's a lot of confusion and overthinking on this. And the reality is a lot of people that are couples make the wrong decision based on, if I die, they're already at max, we're just going to take it early. But they leave a lot of money on the table. Now, if they die early, sure, it worked out well. But statistically, they're leaving a lot of money on the table, whether they like to admit it or not. So as a single person, I would say it's a challenge, but it's also maybe a bit of a blessing in that CPP timing, it's on you. There's no survivor benefit. It's simple. And sometimes that's a good thing. And you can make a better, mindful financial decision that it's only you. So although it's a bit more rigid in that it's only you, I think most single people make a better decision around CPP than couples do. The fifth challenge you're going to face is right sizing your house. And a lot of single clients that we have will face this typically in their mid 70s as they get to late 70s. And it's, where do I want to be? Who do I want to be around? What area do I want to live in retirement? And typically a single person's going to have to kind of right size their house. And whether that's downsizing, moving to a care facility, retirement community, there's a lot of different options and there's no right answer per se, but be ready to downsize or to right size your property a bit earlier than your couple friends. So definitely if you're a single person, have the mindset of, probably by mid 70s, I want to be kind of right sizing my property, being in a place that's going to fit for me long term as I need more help. The sixth challenge you'll face as a single is if you're looking to qualify for GIS, a guaranteed income supplement, it is a bit tougher to qualify as a single person. As a couple, yes, there's a bigger limit, but they can split it. There's just a bit more challenges as a single person. Again, we've seen it. Single people qualify for it. It's definitely not impossible, but it's definitely structured in a way that we find that couples definitely will get qualified a lot easier. So again, if you have little income, but it's just over that threshold, if you were someone else with very low income, you could both qualify. You could kind of split some of that off and both qualify versus just one of you being single. So that's one challenge you'll face. Again, not a lot of people qualify for GIS in Canada here, but if you are close, having that other person might kind of bump you over that track. Whereas being single, you might not quite be there. So just keep that in mind as well. The seventh tip for you, and this is a big one on my side, is financial education. And I do find that typically in couples, one person is kind of financially driven and runs a budget and does all that and has a lot of financial knowledge around money and retirement planning and kind of has done that due diligence. The other person, not so much. And so when we do a plan, we always try to loop that second person in so that they get educated. As a single person, that's all on you. So there's much more kind of heavy lifting on your side to make sure that you understand what is retirement, what is CPP and OAS, and how do you convert your RSP to a RIF and all these things. Again, have a great financial plan and financial planner to work with on this. But again, this heavy lifting is on you. So make sure you take financial education serious. Make sure you learn as much as you can and help yourself. You don't have as many people to lean on. You could have a mentor, someone, we've had actually quite a few single clients reach out to us through other clients, and they say, hey, I'm mentoring Joe, and Joe's single and he doesn't really have that financial acumen, but I'm walking along this path with him. So that's another option as well, is, you know, level up your financial education, but you can also do that by bringing someone that you trust alongside you to kind of bounce some ideas off of. The eighth one is that emotional loneliness will lead to more spending. And a lot of you that are single struggle with emotional loneliness and that feeling. And statistically, there's a lot of data out there that supports it. And I've seen it firsthand, unfortunately, in that a lot of people, when they get lonely, they go spend money on stuff. Just be aware of that. Where are you? You know, do you need to surround yourself with people? Do you need to kind of get some, you know, accountability groups or whatever it is? Create some structure in your life so that you don't fall into emotional spending. Because emotional spending can derail your retirement very quickly. I've seen it firsthand. It's actually quite sad to see. And so I encourage you, if you are struggling with that, to find someone that you can lean on. Find a partner, someone that can really hold you accountable to make sure that doesn't happen. Or even someone, when you're struggling with that, to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, Sally, you know what, I'm really struggling right now. You know, I just need 15 minutes on the phone and just kind of hash this out. Emotional spending can delay your retirement, can derail your retirement, it can do a lot of damage. So make sure you find help for this. There's a lot of options out there. Find something that works for you. The ninth one is very important, and a lot of single people bypass this. A lot of couples bypass this. It's to make sure you have a POA, a power of attorney, set up. And this is set up so that if something happens to you, there's someone there that you trust, that knows you, that knows what you want in your life, to make those financial and health decisions for you. You want to make sure you get that documentation set up long before you need help. So take a step back. Who do you want to make financial and health decisions on your behalf if you're alive, but you can't make those decisions? Make sure you get those documents done with your lawyer before you get to that point, because then it's too late. The 10th challenge ties into number 9 a little bit, is to make sure you have a long-term care plan. And in that, your power of attorney, your POA, should know what that looks like. What is your plan? How should you be taken care of? What's your end of life plan? There's a lot of detail that needs to go into this. As a couple, you probably have those conversations so your spouse or partner knows what you want. When you're single, you don't maybe have those conversations, and you need to. Even though you don't have a spouse or common law partner, you need to have these conversations with that trusted person. Again, make sure you have the documentation in place, but make sure that person knows what the plan is, knows what your wishes are, and you have a long-term care and end-of-life plan. Number 11 is for all single people, whether you enter retirement single or this is very common later in life. And so this applies to everybody, in that later in life, if you lose your spouse or loved one, or if you've been in retirement single along, is to make sure you have someone checking in on you. This is very important, because You want to make sure that someone's coming in. It could be later in life. I have a client I'm going to see actually later this week. He's 98 years old. And so his daughter checks on him every single day. And they also have someone come into the house every single day. There's a lot of checkpoints, right? And it's for obvious reasons. But again, as you get into your 80s, my grandparents have my aunt come in every single day or every second day to check on them, make sure they're doing okay. This is very important. And again, especially as you're single, you might fall. My grandma and grandpa are still alive, but my grandma had a fall not too long ago. And it was late at night. My grandpa was already in bed. My grandpa has health issues, can't really get around too much. And my grandma was outside watering her flowers, fell and broke her hip. And she was down on the ground for quite some time. Luckily, a neighbor walked by and saw her. They got help in that. But again, these are things, when you're single, you could fall, you could have something happen to you. You need to make sure someone's checking in on you, and ideally daily. So who's that person? And are they following through with that? It might be a family member, it might be a neighbor, it could be anybody. But make sure somebody's in that spot to fill that need to check in on you on a daily basis, especially later in life. Number 12 is to have a personal alarm system. Now this is kind of newer technology and it's advancing all the time, but you can get a watch, you can get a necklace, you can get something you put in your pocket, and basically if you fall, it will basically notify the authorities and ambulance or whoever will come out. So it's an alarm to judge if there's something that happened to you. My grandma, if she was wearing one, it would have notified and someone would have been there much sooner. She laid outside for a long time apparently, which is so sad. So again, one of these bracelets, one of these necklaces, whatever type they are, and they're quite cheap. I think my grandparents both have one. They're paying around $5 a month. I know they go up to about $30 or $40 a month. With TELUS, I think they're a bit more in depth then. But again, there's options out there that aren't that expensive that can really be a game changer. Even as a single person in your 60s, you may want to wear one of these, right? If you've known to fall, if you've had a stroke. I think of my mom. My mom's married right now, but if she was ever single, at any point in her life, I'd make sure she had one of these on her all the time. She's had a stroke, she's had health issues. I want to make sure she's taken care of, and that, as a single person down the road, if that ever comes for her, that, she's never in a situation where she's injured and nobody knows about it. And you should have that same kind of feat. So if you have elderly parents, make sure they have one of these. And as you get older, I know we look at, our parents are older, but this could be you in your 60s. You might want to get one of these now. Again, they're not expensive. Technology is helping. Utilize technology to make your life easier. The 13th challenge that I see singles face would be that they don't travel enough, that they say, I don't have anyone to travel with, I don't want to do it alone. Look, don't give up on travel. If you're single, that doesn't mean you can't travel, enjoy life, have the same type of retirement. And a lot of you do, but a lot of you don't. Now, there's a lot of solo trips out there. There's a lot of groups, like singles coming together to do a trip somewhere. We just had a client that's single. She did a trip, a cruise with 4 of their friends. There's options out there. Don't give up on travel if you're single. There's so many options, whether it's a bike tour, a cruise, whatever kind of travel you like to do, there are options out there. Do your homework. There's a lot of groups out there. You only have so many travel years. Those go-go years of retirement are only so long. So make sure you take advantage of them and don't kind of put it on the side because you're single, you don't know what you want to do, or you don't know who to travel with. Go out there, meet people, get out of your comfort zone. You'll have a blast, I promise you. The 14th tip I have for you is early in retirement, you may find loneliness, right? A lot of people, whether you're single or not, get a lot of fill from, coworkers and those around you that you see every single day at work. As a single person, when you retire, it can be quite lonely, like I talked about earlier. So my recommendation for you, and what I've seen success with a lot of our single clients, is have a part-time job or volunteer work. Have something that checks off maybe 10 to 20 hours a week where you're around people. And again, it could be for pay if you need it, or it could be just a pure volunteer aspect. But get back into the community, get back into the workforce. Do something that kind of keeps you connected. So it's not kind of straight off the cliff, work, lots of people around you to nobody. Kind of gradually enter into that retirement phase where it's, again, part-time, volunteer, whatever it is that kind of meets your need. Again, you don't want to go back to work and hate work, but hey, I'm around people. Like, that doesn't work. Find something you've always wanted to do. Again, could be for free, could be for pay, but find something to kind of transition into retirement so it's not kind of cold turkey, no one around you. The 15th tip I have for you is to prioritize estate planning. Too many of you overlook estate planning. single couple, you kind of bypass it. As a single person, you need to make sure you really dig into this. Make sure you have your will set up. Like I talked about earlier, your power of attorney. And if something happens to you, but you're still alive, you want to make sure that you have those estate documents together to make sure that your wishes are held up. You want to make sure that part of your estate plan is tax planning. If when you pass away, how much tax is going to CRA versus people that you love. And you want to make sure you have a clear plan in place, a clear tax plan in place to make sure that the most money possible is going to charity, loved ones, family, whoever it is, versus CRA. The 16th tip I have for you, and this is really important, and I know I've said that about a few, but it's where you live. And I talked about right sizing your home, but this is kind of a second layer to it in that make sure you live in a community that's walkable, that you can get to a hospital in a fair amount of time, that there's, in-home care in that area. Where you live really matters as you get later in life. You need to make sure you have the support system around you, the social system around you, to make sure that you can A, enjoy retirement, and B, get the help you need. So as a single person, it's vitally important to make sure that you have this community around you to make sure that you're well supported. Again, I'll use my grandparents as an example in that they live in one of these small communities that you buy an apartment, and when you die, they basically buy it back off you for what you paid, but it's very cheap communal living. It's like a co-op essentially. But again, there's 50 units, 60 units in there. They're all retired people, and there's a great community. They have a clubhouse there, woodworking shop. There's a lot, and it's been a great community for them as they've gone through retirement. Now, I'm trying to convince my dad to go there. That's another conversation. But again, it's a great community for retired people. So find that community for you, especially as a single person, to kind of continue to have that social aspect as you get later in life. And again, typically these types of places are close to a hospital, they have in-home care available, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you understand A, the right sizing of your home, but B, where that right sizing needs to happen to make sure that you're taken care of and have that support for a long period of time. The 17th and final tip I have for you is to get a pet. Now, I love animals. I don't have pets. I have 4 kids. Those are my pets, essentially. So I'm tied up there. But we've seen a lot of single people, and there's a lot of data out there showing that when you're single, whether in retirement or leading up to retirement, in that a pet, typically a dog, could be a cat, but typically a dog, will provide a lot of comfort to you. The psychological side has a big impact there. So if you're single, if you like furry critters, maybe getting a pet is a good option for you. Again, I don't have a pet, I have 4 kids, but I've been told by my single clients that having a dog has been a great help for them. So maybe that's something you want to look into if you're single and you want someone around you or something around you more often for that loneliness. So let's jump into Mrs. YouTube here. As we can see, Mrs. YouTube is 60 years old. She's been blessed with a great defined benefit pension plan and has been able to save a little bit on top of that. So if we look at her defined benefit pension, we'll see at age 60, retirement starting January 1st, 2024, she has a pension of $70,000 a year indexed to inflation at 2%. With a reduction to $60,000 at age 65. So she has what's called a bridge benefit. That bridge benefit is an additional payment between age of retirement and age 65 that provides a bit more money. So her bridge benefit's $10,000 and her base benefit on her defined benefit plan would be $60,000. She's also been able to save up a little bit of money in the form of an RSP, $150,000, and TFSA of $100,000. Now, as for government benefits, in this scenario, we've planned to start them at age 65 for both of the CPP and OAS, 85% maximum on the CPP, 100 on the OAS as she's been in Canada for her life. So if we go to this scenario, one thing with this plan is I've left the RIF payment, so no RIF withdrawals until age 71. And why I did this, I just want to show kind of some comparisons here. A lot of people do this. They say, I have my pension, and then when that runs out, CPP and OAS, and I'll just kind of leave the RSP for later in life. So you can see here, the RSP, there's nothing touched. It converts to a RIF at 71, and we have to start taking money out at 72. And it's kind of drawn out over time. And then, as you can see, it takes a while to get rid of. It's finally gone at age 90, which I put at life expectancy here. You can see this is the after-tax income that Mrs. YouTube receives. Very nice income, $68,915, and that's adjusted to inflation for the rest of her life. So again, very nice income in a plan like this. And someone might say, hey, this is a great plan, works well, great. A few issues that come up. First off, I've put in an expense into here. Mrs. YouTube, she's only 60. She will probably have to replace her vehicle a few times. So I've put a car expense at $25,000 adjusted to general inflation from age 65 to age 85 in every 8 years. So if we go back to the planning page, you'll see in the planning page the car expenses at age 65, again at 73, and then one more time at age 81. Now in a plan like this where you think, the income's good, I'll just roll this out. If we look at that car payment, the first time it happens, it comes out of her TFSA. Perfect, no additional taxes, that's perfect. If we look forward again to age 73, there's not much left in her TFSA account, and we have to do a big RRSP or RIF withdrawal at that point. And you can see her tax bill goes from $24,000 all the way up to $40,000, then back to $24,000 the year after. So we're triggering a lot of tax that's not necessary. And again, this is just one additional expense in a plan. Typically, a client will have many additional expenses throughout retirement. So let's take a quick look at what if we started taking the RIF withdrawals a little bit earlier. Instead of waiting until 71, what if we just convert it right away and just took out the minimum amount? Again, something that we see consistently come into our office that is quote unquote a great plan according to the current advisor. You can see here, real income after tax gone up a bit, 69,235. So again, great income. Like there's no complaints here on the income. This definitely meets Mrs. YouTube's income needs, all of that. When we look at the additional car expenses, you can see TFSA the first time, TFSA the second time, and the third time, mostly TFSA. So you think, okay, this is a great plan. Gives us lots of income. There's TFSA there when needed, and it meets the income needs I need. Now, I want to look at a few things. Can we bump this up? Can we reduce this tax bill? Again, the tax bill is about $770,000 here. But more importantly, can we bump up this after-tax income, create a bit of a better situation, maybe allow the TFSA not to get so low over time? You can see, by age 81, it's emptied out. But really, if any other big expense came up, it winds down 50,000 there, it gets down to about 36,000 there. So those are some of the concerns. So what happens if we just took this client and said, hey, Miss YouTube, let's just look at a few things. Let's delay your CPP all the way to age 70. And let's see what that can do. So if we run this and run a recommendation on it, and we're going to do sustainable spending, which means that based on everything that you have and the inputs we put in there, how much can we generate out of this? And you can see just by delaying CPP, bumped it by 857. That's after tax adjusted to inflation for 30 years. So we're talking about in nominal dollars, like actual dollars in your pocket, probably 30, 35, 40, maybe up to $45,000 of additional money just from delaying that CPP. So that's helped a ton. Now, the next thing I want to look at is, okay, well, our tax rate's still 800. So taxes went up, but after tax in your pocket went down. So again, that's a net benefit. But there's still like a zero numbers on the TFSA there a few years earlier. I don't like how this kind of runs out of money constantly. So let's do a bit of an RSP meltdown to coincide with delaying that CPP number. So let's take out 24,000. Let's front end load it a bit. We're going to do that till age 64. So from 60 to 64, we'll pull out a lot. And then we'll scale it back to 12,000. And we're going to copy that down to age 90. Now, I know it'll run out before that. So let's see when this runs out. And it should be around 70. So you can see here, the last little bit, 9,000 is coming out at 69. So by 70, when we start CPP, the RIF is emptied out. So this is a great RSP drawdown. You can see the tax rate stays in that 18 to 20% range pretty consistently. So a nice level tax bill. No OAS clawback at this point for this client, which is great. So that's another added benefit. And if we look at the total tax, it's dropped now to 768. So lower tax, better situation. The TFSA is not winding down to zero. In fact, it stays above 100,000 or close to for a very long time. And then let's see if we can look at sustainable spending, if we can get a bit more money for the client. And you can see the RSP meltdown added about $260 more. So every little bit helps. So again, kind of walk through a few different scenarios here where it's, CPP difference, RIF taking it at 60 versus 71, drawing down that RSP account. And lastly, we could look at delaying OAS. I don't know if that's going to help her or not, but let's play with this. And these are the things you should be doing with your advisor. What makes sense to you? What gives you the most after-tax income? What kind of meets your planning needs? So if we delay the OAS till 70, let's hit generate. We get a bit of a clawback here, very nominal. Not too worried about that. And let's just go calculate. Now the RSP meltdown would have to change a little bit because we front end loaded it. But you can see about $244 more. So delaying OAS would make a ton of sense. I think I'd probably try and maybe do minus 18,000. So about $1,500 a month out. Let's see what that looks like. Again, I'm trying to empty this out by 70. And that's almost bang on. So I'll just leave it at that. Let's see if this gives us a bit more money or a bit less money. So this is kind of the workaround. So $23 less, so basically the same. I like that. I like that meltdown. The tax is a bit more level. We could probably take it a bit more aggressive here. Copy that down. Then at least that first year at 70 when you're collecting CPP and OS is not that little bit of a bump. We've emptied it out now a bit earlier. Again, level tax rate, maybe it's 20,000. So you get the gist of it. We want to make sure we're leveling out the tax rate, giving you the most after-tax money. Don't settle for what your neighbor did, what your coworker did. Do the process with your financial planner. Make sure things are on track. You've worked hard to build up this nest egg. Make sure you work hard to draw it down in an efficient manner.